Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Today is Thursday, October 22, 2020. CNN report: Coronavirus pandemic is causing unacceptable shortages in U.S. drug supplies. Report says the coronavirus pandemic is causing unacceptable shortages of U.S. drug supplies in the United States, according to a report from the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy (CIDRAP) at the University of Minnesota. The report says shortages have limited 29 of 40 drugs critical for treating COVID-19 patients, including propofol, albuterol, midazolam, hydroxychloroquine, fentanyl, azithromycin and morphine, according to the American Society of Health System Pharmacists.
Al Jazeera report: Huawei reportedly hoarded 5G chips before Trump sanctions. Huawei Technologies Co. quietly spent months racing to stockpile critical radio chips ahead of Trump administration sanctions, ensuring it can keep supplying Chinese carriers in their $170 billion rollout of 5G technology through at least 2021. Partner Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Co. began ramping up output in late 2019 of Huawei's 7nm Tianjin communications chips, the most crucial element in 5G base stations, people familiar with the matter said.
Al Jazeera report: recovered COVID-19 patients' plasma of little use in treatment. Plasma taken from the blood of recovered COVID-19 patients that is given to people sick with the disease does not reduce their chances of getting seriously ill or dying, according to new research from a study in India. The research, which involved more than 400 people who were in hospital with COVID-19, investigated convalescent plasma as a treatment for people with moderate disease. The results, published in the medical journal BMJ on Friday, concluded that convalescent plasma showed limited effectiveness.
CNN report: hits and misses from the final presidential debate. President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden held an actual debate on Thursday night in Nashville, Tennessee, the final time the two candidates will share the stage before the November 3 election. Unlike their first debate last month, the two candidates actually engaged one another, generally speaking, on issues led skillfully by debate moderator Kristen Welker. Below, the best and worst of the night that was.
BBC report: Australia child abuse. Police arrest 44 suspects and rescue 16 children. 16 children had been removed from harm in the process, the Australian Federal Police (AFP) said. The arrests followed a year-long investigation into images and videos that were shared online. Arrests of the suspects, all aged between 19 and 57, were made in every Australian state. Police laid a total of 350 charges, all related to possessing or producing child exploitation material. The men had allegedly used a cloud storage platform to share the abuse.
Fox report: Florida mom, bikini model defends family in gunfight during armed home invasion. A Florida bikini model grabbed a pistol and got into a shootout with armed home invasion suspects who broke in while her husband, 7-year-old son and their friends were watching the NBA Finals, according to local reports. Ansley Pacheco, 26, was in the bathroom when two men broke in and forced her family and friends to the floor at gunpoint, according to Miami's WPLG-TV. Home surveillance video shows the suspects surprising a friend of Pacheco's in the driveway before pushing him inside, where a group was watching the game.
Fox report: real James Bond. Declassified files suggest a Cold War spy by that name. Recently declassified Cold War-era documents about a suspected British agent named James Bond have the Polish public and some in the intelligence community shaken and stirred. On February 18, 1964, the agent named Bond, James Bond, arrived in Warsaw, then behind the Soviet Union's Iron Curtain, a barrier separating the communist Eastern Bloc from the West. Officially, he was employed as an archivist for the British Embassy military attaché.
Deutsche Welle report: U.S. says Russian hacking group targeted U.S. servers. U.S. authorities on Thursday said that a Russia-backed hacking group stole data from at least 2 state and local government servers. The warning comes less than 2 weeks before the U.S. votes in presidential elections. It has raised fears of Russian interference in the elections. The U.S. has said that Russia interfered in the 2016 elections by hacking into Democratic email accounts. This year, U.S. authorities said there is an effort once again to disparage President Donald Trump's rival Joe Biden.
BBC report: Nigeria protests. The misinformation circulating online. The story has started trending globally, with thousands of posts on social media, but not all of them factual. We have looked at some of the misinformation that has spread online. A striking image of a woman called Ugwu blessing Ugochukwu crying while holding a folded Nigerian flag, and sitting on top of a statue have been widely shared on Twitter. The image is real, and she had joined protests in southeastern Nigeria.
Fox report. Connecticut boy forced to kneel on tax, drink hot sauce, mom, stepfather arrested. A Connecticut man is accused of locking his stepson in a small room for months and torturing him by forcing him to kneel on tax and drink hot sauce until he vomited, police say. The Naugatuck Police Department arrested Kevin Grant, 31, and Caitlin Elizabeth Baptiste, 29, last Friday for allegedly keeping him in a laundry room for 4 months and torturing him. Police did not release the juvenile victim's name, and his age was redacted in the warrant application.
CNN report. Georgia teen apologizes for plot to kill black churchgoers and is sentenced to time in juvenile detention. A 17-year-old Georgia girl accused of plotting to attack a predominantly black church in 2019, apologized in court on Thursday before being sentenced to 4 years in a juvenile facility and probation. The teen was arrested last November after her plan to attack the historically black church with knives was foiled, according to police. Her plot resembled the one carried out by Dylan Roof at Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in South Carolina 5 years ago.
Deutsche Welle report. Trump and Biden square off in final debate. How it went. Some of the main takeaways I will bring: decency, honor and respect, and that's something you haven't had for the past 4 years. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. Biden says we have to move toward net zero emissions, and would rejoin the Paris Accord. Trump says windmills kill all the birds, and that producing them causes pollution. He adds, I love solar, but it's not powerful enough yet to really run all our big, beautiful factories.
CNN report. Japanese craft breweries are turning unsold beer into gin. This was going to be a big year for Japan. With the Summer Olympics due to be hosted in Tokyo, the island nation expected 40 million tourists to grace its shores, but when COVID-19 took hold, the Olympics were postponed and the already struggling economy took a further battering. With bars and restaurants suffering a significant reduction in business, beer sales in Japan dropped 26% by volume for the first half of the year, according to Bloomberg.
Al Jazeera report. International donors pledge nearly $600 million to support Rohingya. International donors pledged nearly $600 million in humanitarian support to hundreds of thousands of mostly Muslim Rohingya on Thursday, succeeding in bridging a huge gap in funding for the Myanmar minority who fled their homes in 2017 amid a brutal military crackdown that is now the subject of a genocide investigation. The United Kingdom, the United States and European Union organized the virtual conference along with the UN Refugee Agency (UNHCR), aiming to meet a target of $1 billion in funding for 2020, less than half of which had been raised.
Deutsche Welle report. Goldman Sachs agrees to pay $2.9 billion in 1MDB scandal. The Goldman Sachs Group agreed to pay $2.9 billion €2.4 billion in penalties to settle criminal charges in Malaysia's 1MDB bribery scandal, said the U.S. Justice Department Thursday. The sum is set to be the largest U.S. fine ever in a corruption case. Goldman's Malaysia subsidiary unit pleaded guilty in a U.S. court for violations of American bribery law, in the case that involved $1.6 billion in bribes.
BBC report. India buzzes with fake news of civil war in Pakistan. The reports emerged after local Pakistani media said troops had kidnapped the provincial police chief to force him to arrest a top opposition leader. The story was quickly picked up over the border in Pakistan's arch-rival, India, where reports went much further, saying clashes between the police and the army had resulted in the deaths of many Karachi police officers and tanks had been seen on the streets.
Fox report. Illinois bars, restaurants rebel against governor's closure orders. Some restaurants and bars in Illinois are promising to stay open despite threats from Illinois Gov. J.B. Pritzker to shut down establishments that don't follow guidelines and closure orders. It is very serious right now, folks, and if we need to close down restaurants or bars or take away their liquor licenses, take away their gaming licenses, We will do that because we are now headed into a peak that is beyond, potentially, where we were in March and April, Pritzker said at the St. Clair County Health Department Thursday. Coronavirus cases are surging in certain parts of the state, as the Department of Public Health announced 4,942 new cases Thursday, a single-day record. Certain parts of the state are now facing news restrictions as a result. Despite Pritzker's threats and the surging cases, some restaurants are adamant that they're staying open no matter what authorities say. Key Steak and Seafood in Glendale Heights railed against.
Thank you for watching 5 p.m. recap. To be notified, you can subscribe our channel and activate the bell.